I stared at my phone screen at 3:17 a.m., reading the message for the fourth time. The notification sound had pulled me from sleep, but now I was fully alert. Just married Marcus from accounting. You're pathetic. By the way, thanks for paying for my dress though. Kiss emoji. Below the text was a photo. Sarah, my fiancée of 2 years, in her white cocktail dress, the one I'd helped her pick out for her work conference, standing next to Marcus, both holding up what looked like a marriage certificate. Some tacky Vegas chapel glowed neon in the background. I sat there in our shared bedroom, surrounded by wedding planning books and sample invitations scattered across the nightstand. Our wedding was supposed to be in 6 weeks. The venue was booked. The caterer was paid. Her dress, her real wedding dress, was hanging in our closet. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. 1,000 thoughts ran through my mind, but only one that mattered. Sarah had just made this remarkably simple. I typed one letter, K. Then I set my phone aside and walked to the kitchen. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and started making calls. See, Sarah thought she was clever. She thought I'd beg, cry, or make a scene. She had no idea who she was really dealing with. Have you ever had someone completely underestimate you? Drop a comment below and let me know, because this story is just getting started. Hit that like button if you're ready to see how this unfolds. By 4 a.m., I'd already set 3 major things in motion. By sunrise, Sarah's perfect little Vegas fantasy was about to become a very expensive mistake. And the best part? She'd done all the hard work for me. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. My name is Jake. I'm 29, and I work as a senior financial analyst for a mid-sized investment firm. I'm the guy who finds patterns in numbers that other people miss. It's also made me very practical about financial arrangements. Sarah and I met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. She was 26, worked in marketing for a tech startup, and knew how to work a room. Smart, ambitious, and strategic. Exactly the type of person I could see building something with. We moved in together after 8 months. The arrangement was straightforward. My name was already on a good lease. I had established credit and savings. She had student loans and startup salary uncertainty. Financially, it made sense for everything to run through my accounts while she focused on her career trajectory. The lease renewal was in my name. The utilities, internet, streaming services, all my accounts for simplicity. Even her car lease, which we got a better rate on through my credit union. She handled groceries and smaller expenses through a card connected to my main account. Clean, efficient, logical. The proposal happened last Christmas. Market timing was good, her career was stabilizing, and we discussed the financial benefits of marriage. June 15th wedding date, 6 weeks from that Vegas text message. Everything was booked and paid for through my accounts. Naturally, Sarah's job required occasional travel. Marketing conferences, client meetings, standard corporate functions. I tracked these the same way I track any recurring expense, necessary cost of business for her career advancement. The Vegas trip was positioned as a 3-day digital marketing conference. Professional development, networking, potential promotion opportunity. Made sense from a career investment perspective. I'd even helped her select appropriate attire for maximum professional impact. Marcus worked in her company's accounting department. I'd encountered him maybe 5 times at corporate social functions. Recently divorced, seemed competent enough. Sarah referenced him occasionally in work context. Expense reports, budget software, standard interdepartmental coordination. Here's where my analytical background became useful. I tracked patterns professionally, and certain data points had shifted in the past 2 months. Sarah's gym schedule became irregular, no consistent pattern to optimize around. New purchases appeared without corresponding budget discussions. Her phone behavior changed from open access to security protocols, which she attributed to corporate policy updates. Quick question for everyone watching. Have you ever noticed behavioral pattern changes but filed them as low priority data? Let me know in the comments what indicators you've learned to monitor. The most significant data point was her engagement with wedding planning. Initial enthusiasm was high, Then efficiency dropped dramatically around 2 months ago. Maybe we should postpone, she'd suggested, while reviewing vendor contracts. 6 weeks feels compressed. Statistical probability suggested she was optimizing for a different outcome. The night before her Vegas departure, we'd reviewed final wedding logistics over Chinese takeout. She seemed focused on her phone, rather than the guest count reconciliation I was presenting. Something requiring immediate attention? I'd asked, noting her distraction pattern. Just reviewing tomorrow's conference agenda, she'd replied. This could significantly impact my career trajectory. Accurate statement, as it turned out. She left for the airport at 6 a.m. with standard departure protocols. Expected check-in call never materialized, but I categorized this as conference engagement priority. Now at 3:17 a.m., reviewing a photo of my fiancée holding a marriage certificate with a different man, the data set was complete. This wasn't impulsive behavior. The timeline, the dress selection, even the deliberately cruel message formatting, this was a calculated exit strategy. She'd been planning her transition while I was planning our wedding. But here's what Sarah's analysis missed. When you build a financial arrangement where everything flows through one person's established systems, and that person happens to be very good at managing complex financial structures, you've essentially handed them complete operational control. She just activated her exit plan. Time to activate mine. The beauty of good financial organization is how quickly you can implement changes when the situation requires adjustment. And Sarah had just provided all the justification I needed. By 3:30 a.m., I had my laptop open and was already 3 moves ahead. The first call was to my credit union's 24-hour customer service line. Professional, efficient, no emotional explanation needed. I need to report unauthorized access concerns on accounts ending in 4751, 2839, and 6624, I told the representative. I'll be requiring immediate card replacements and access restrictions. Of course, sir. Can you confirm your identity and tell me what type of unauthorized access? Joint user engaged in activities that compromise account security. I need all secondary access removed immediately. 20 minutes later, every card Sarah had access to was deactivated. Her gym membership, Spotify Premium, Netflix, Amazon Prime, all connected to my accounts, all requiring new payment methods by morning. The second call was to my property management company. Also 24-hour service, since they manage several high-end buildings. Jake Morrison, Unit 4B. I need to discuss lease security concerns and possible unauthorized access to my residence. What kind of concerns, Mr. Morrison? Lease is exclusively in my name, but I've been allowing another party residential access. That arrangement is being terminated due to security breaches. I need to understand my options for immediate access control. Since you're the sole leaseholder, you have full discretion over access permissions. Would you like us to coordinate a lock change? That would be efficient. How quickly can that be arranged? We can have someone there by 8 a.m. for an emergency service fee. Acceptable. Please proceed. Third call was to my attorney, David Chen. Criminal law wasn't his specialty, but he understood business risk management. I left a voicemail with the essential facts and a request for consultation on potential legal exposure. By 4:15 a.m., I had secured the immediate tactical advantages. Now came the documentation phase. Screenshot of the Vegas marriage photo with metadata intact. Screenshot of the message thread with timestamps. Photos of all the wedding planning materials scattered around our apartment. Contracts, deposits, vendor agreements, all in my name. Then I started researching Nevada marriage laws. Fascinating reading, actually. Turns out getting married while engaged to someone else isn't technically illegal, but it does create some interesting legal complications around fraud and breach of contract. Here's a question for all the analytical minds watching. When someone shows you exactly who they are, do you believe them the first time? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this data was about to get very interesting. The wedding vendor calls started at 6 a.m. I began with the venue coordinator. This is Jake Morrison regarding the June 15th Morrison Walsh event. I need to discuss cancellation procedures due to changed circumstances. Oh no, is everything all right? We can discuss rescheduling options. No rescheduling necessary. The other party has entered into marriage with a third party. I'll need documentation of our cancellation policy and potential recovery of deposits. Silence. Then, I'm so sorry. Let me transfer you to our events manager. Similar conversations with the caterer/florist, photographer, and band. Professional, factual, no emotional context needed. Just changed circumstances requiring contract modifications. The most interesting call was with the dress shop where Sarah had ordered her wedding gown. Final fitting was scheduled for next week. Since the bride has married someone else, I assume the dress order will be canceled. I informed them. She married someone else? But the wedding is in 6 weeks. Correct. She married her coworker in Las Vegas yesterday. I have photographic documentation if needed for your records. Sir, we've never had a situation like this. I understand it's unusual. I'll email you the documentation for your files. By 8 a.m., the locksmith had arrived and was installing new security hardware, professional-grade electronic access system. Sarah's key would no longer function, and I'd removed her from the building's guest access list. That's when my phone started ringing. The first call was from Sarah's number, but I was expecting that. Let it go to voicemail. The message was illuminating. Jake, what the hell did you do to my cards? I'm trying to get coffee and nothing's working. This is insane. Call me back right now. The panic in her voice was immediate. She'd probably tried to buy by breakfast and discovered her financial access had been terminated. Reality was setting in faster than she'd anticipated. Second call came from a number I didn't recognize. Vegas area code. This is Marcus. Look, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Sarah says you've canceled all her credit cards? That seems pretty extreme, man. I answered this one. No misunderstanding, Marcus. Sarah informed me via text that she married you yesterday. Congratulations on your new wife. Since she's no longer my fiancée, she no longer has access to my financial accounts. Seems logical. But she doesn't have any money. She's stranded. That sounds like something her husband should address. You'll probably want to discuss financial arrangements as newlyweds. You can't just leave her with nothing. I didn't leave her with anything, Marcus. She left with you. Have a great honeymoon. I hung up and immediately blocked both numbers. The third call was the most interesting. Sarah's mother, Barbara. I'd always liked Barbara, but family loyalty runs deep. Jake, sweetie, I think there's been some terrible mistake. Sarah's calling me crying, saying you've locked her out and stolen her money. She says she never got married, that it was some kind of joke or misunderstanding. Barbara, I have a photo of Sarah and Marcus holding their marriage certificate outside a Vegas chapel. She sent it to me herself with a message explaining she'd married him. Would you like me to forward that to you? Long pause. She really sent you that? Timestamp shows 3:17 a.m. this morning. I can provide documentation if needed. Another pause. Then, quietly, what have you done? By noon, I had documentation of complete operational separation, legal consultation scheduled, and a very clear understanding of exactly how much Sarah had underestimated the situation. She was about to learn that financial independence requires actual independence. Bookmark. By 2 p.m., Sarah had switched to using Marcus's phone, and the calls were coming every 20 minutes. I let them all go to voicemail, building a comprehensive audio record of her escalating desperation. Message 1. Jake, this is ridiculous. You can't just cut off my cards without warning. I need access to my money. Message 3. Okay, I get it. You're mad, but this is illegal. You can't steal someone's money just because you're upset. Message 7. Jake, please. I made a mistake, okay? It was supposed to be a joke. Marcus and I aren't really married. Call me back. The progression was textbook. Anger, denial, bargaining. I saved each voicemail with timestamps for documentation purposes. What I hadn't anticipated was how quickly word would spread through our social circle. By afternoon, I was fielding calls from friends who'd heard conflicting stories about what happened. My college roommate Tom called first. Dude, Sarah's posting on Facebook that you financially abused her and kicked her out with no money. She's saying you trapped her in a controlling relationship. What's going on? I forwarded him the Vegas photo without commentary. His response was immediate. Holy shit, she actually sent you this? 3:17 a.m. this morning. Feel free to share that context if anyone asks for your opinion on the situation. My sister Emma called next, more diplomatic but clearly fishing for information. I saw some concerning posts on social media. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about what happened? Sarah married her coworker in Vegas and informed me via text message. I've adjusted our financial arrangements accordingly. Anything else you've heard is probably creative storytelling. She married someone else? Jake, that's insane. Are you handling this okay? Here's the thing people don't understand about analytical personalities. We don't process betrayal the way emotional people do. There's no devastating heartbreak phase. There's just data that needs to be reorganized based on new information. Quick question for everyone watching. Do you process major life changes emotionally or logically? Let me know in the comments, because this systematic approach was about to become very important. But Sarah's social media campaign was more sophisticated than I'd expected. She wasn't just posting random emotional outbursts. She was building a narrative. Controlling fiancé, financially abuses dependent girlfriend, then abandons her when she tries to escape. Her post had 43 likes and dozens of supportive comments from people who didn't know the full situation. You deserve so much better. Financial abuse is real abuse. Thank God you got away from him. The most interesting responses came from mutual friends who knew us both. They were asking careful questions. What happened in Vegas? Why did you leave so suddenly? Is there more to this story? Sarah's responses were increasingly frantic. She kept mentioning that I'd stolen her money and illegally locked her out of our apartment. But she couldn't explain why she was in Vegas, why she wasn't coming home, or who Marcus was. By evening, the narrative was starting to crack. Marcus apparently was not handling his new marital responsibilities well. A mutual friend from Sarah's company called with gossip that was too good not to share. Jake, I don't know if you know this, but Marcus is completely freaking out. Sarah showed up at his hotel room this morning with no money and no credit cards, expecting him to handle everything. Word around the offices is he thought this was going to be some kind of weekend fling, not a permanent situation. Interesting. How's that working out for them? She's demanding he buy her a plane ticket home, but she can't go home because you changed the locks. He's realizing he's responsible for housing and feeding someone else's ex-fiancée indefinitely. I heard he's been calling his divorce lawyer asking about annulment procedures. The irony was perfect. Sarah had executed her exit strategy without planning her landing zone. My attorney David called that evening with preliminary legal analysis. Jake, I've reviewed everything you sent. You're completely protected here. She has no legal claim to any of your assets, your apartment, or your accounts. The Vegas marriage actually strengthens your position if she tries to claim any kind of financial entitlement. What about her claims of financial abuse? Financial abuse requires proof that you prevented her from accessing her own resources or controlled her through economic means. She never had any resources. Everything she was using belonged to you. You can't abuse someone by stopping your voluntary financial support. By 10 p.m., Scheid received 12 more voicemails from Sarah, 6 angry texts from her sister, and 1 fascinating call from Marcus's ex-wife, who apparently found the whole situation hilarious. I just wanted to thank you, she told me. Marcus cheated on me with multiple women during our marriage, and seeing him trapped with one of them permanently is the best karma I could have asked for. The last voicemail of the day came at 11:47 p.m. Sarah's voice was different, smaller, more desperate. Jake, please. I know I messed up. I know this looks bad, but I'm stuck here with someone I barely know and I have nowhere to go. Can we just talk? I deleted it and went to bed. Tomorrow, Sarah would learn that consequences compound with time. Wednesday morning brought clarity. While checking my email over coffee, I found something that changed the entire landscape. A forwarded message from my friend Dave, who works in IT security. "Jake, thought you should see this. My girlfriend works at Sarah's company, and this email chain has been circulating since yesterday." The forwarded thread was from Sarah's corporate Slack, dating back 3 weeks. The conversation was between Sarah and Marcus, but what made it interesting was the timeline and the content. Sarah, 3 weeks ago, conference planning is going perfectly. Jake has no idea what's coming. After Vegas, I'll have everything figured out. You sure about the timing? Seems risky. He's been planning that stupid wedding for months. By the time he realizes what happened, I'll be established somewhere else. Besides, he'll probably just cry about it. What about your living situation? I've been moving money gradually, plus I know all his account passwords. Worst case, I clean out what I need and disappear. I screenshot the entire conversation chain. Sarah hadn't just planned to leave, she'd planned to rob me on the way out. More interesting was what came next. Dave had included additional context from his girlfriend. Sarah's been telling people at work for weeks that she was going to teach her controlling boyfriend a lesson, and that she had an exit strategy that would leave her financially secure. The pattern was now complete. This wasn't impulsive behavior or even a simple affair. Sarah had constructed an elaborate plan to humiliate me publicly while securing financial assets she had no legal claim to. She just made one critical miscalculation. She denounced her strategy in writing, using company communication systems. I forwarded everything to my attorney with a simple note. "Please review for potential criminal implications." His response came within an hour. "Jake, this changes everything. She's documented premeditated fraud. We're not just talking about relationship issues anymore. This is criminal conspiracy to commit theft." Here's something for all the strategic thinkers watching. Have you ever had someone accidentally hand you the evidence you needed to completely destroy their position? Hit that like button if you want to see how this played out. By noon, I had connected with Sarah's HR department. Professional inquiry, nothing emotional. I simply forwarded the Slack conversation screenshots with a brief explanation that these communications suggested potential misuse of company resources for personal fraud planning. "Mr. Morrison, we take any allegations of employee misconduct very seriously. These communications will be investigated immediately. We appreciate you bringing this to our attention. I assume this falls under your code of conduct policies regarding employee behavior?" "Absolutely. Planning criminal activity using company communication systems is grounds for immediate termination, regardless of whether the activity was successfully executed." The afternoon brought a call from Marcus. His tone had shifted significantly from yesterday's righteous indignation. "Look, Jake, I think we need to talk. She's been saying some things that don't match up with what actually happened. Such as, she told me you guys were basically broken up, that you were controlling and she was planning to leave anyway. But then I see the wedding stuff in your apartment photos she showed me, and the timeline doesn't make sense." "What timeline concerns you, Marcus?" "She's been planning this Vegas thing for weeks, man. She had outfits picked out, knew exactly which chapel to go to. This wasn't spontaneous. And now she's talking about accessing your bank accounts to get what she's owed. That doesn't sound legal." Marcus was experiencing his own awakening. He thought he was helping someone escape a bad relationship. Instead, he'd accidentally married a potential felon. "Marcus, I'd recommend documenting any conversations where Sarah discusses accessing my accounts. That might be relevant information for both of us." You think she's actually planning to steal from you?" "I think Sarah's been planning a lot of things. The question is whether you want to be legally associated with those plans." The call ended quickly after that. By evening, I had legal documentation of premeditated fraud, corporate confirmation of policy violations, and a co-conspirator who was rapidly distancing himself from Sarah's schemes. But the real revelation came at 6 p.m. when my bank called. Mr. Morrison, we've detected unusual login attempts on your online banking. Multiple failed password attempts from a Nevada IP address. Should we be concerned about account security? Sarah was trying to execute her backup plan. She was attempting to access my accounts remotely, exactly as she'd discussed in those Slack messages. She just provided the final piece of evidence I needed. Time to activate the nuclear option. Thursday morning, I implemented what I call the systematic exposure protocol. First call was to Detective Rodriguez at the Financial Crimes Unit. I need to report attempted unauthorized access to my banking accounts with evidence of premeditated conspiracy. What kind of evidence, Mr. Morrison? Written communications from the perpetrator discussing plans to access my accounts without authorization, time-stamped 3 weeks before the actual attempts. I also have documentation of the perpetrator informing me they'd married someone else, followed immediately by login attempts from their current location. That's unusually well documented. Can you bring this information in today? I'll be there within the hour. The police station visit was efficient. Detective Rodriguez reviewed the Slack screenshots, banking alerts, and Sarah's text messages with professional interest. Mr. Morrison, this is textbook conspiracy to commit fraud. She documented her intent, announced her execution timeline, and then attempted to follow through exactly as planned. How did you obtain these workplace communications? They were forwarded to me by a concerned party who had access through legitimate professional channels. The communications were sent using company systems, which typically don't have privacy protections for personal criminal planning. We'll need to contact her employer and the Las Vegas authorities. This crosses state lines and involves workplace misconduct. Perfect. Second stop was Sarah's office building. I didn't go to her floor, I went to HR. I'm following up on the employee misconduct report I filed yesterday regarding Sarah Walsh. I have additional documentation that may be relevant to your investigation. I provided them with copies of the banking alerts and police report reference number. Mr. Morrison, I can confirm that Ms. Walsh's employment is under active review. These additional materials will be included in our investigation file. I assume attempted fraud using company communications affects her professional standing? Company policy is very clear about criminal activity involving company resources. I can't discuss specifics, but I can say that such activities typically result in immediate termination and potential legal action. By noon, Sarah's professional life was officially over. The real satisfaction came at 2 p.m. when I received a call from Marcus. His tone suggested panic. Jake, something's happening. Sarah just got a call from her HR department telling her not to return to work. Then the police called the hotel asking for her. What did you do? I reported attempted fraud to the appropriate authorities and provided documentation. Seems like standard procedure when someone tries to steal money. She's freaking out, man. She keeps saying this was all a misunderstanding, that she wasn't really going to take anything. Marcus, she documented her plans in writing. She attempted to access my accounts after informing me she'd married you. This isn't a misunderstanding, it's evidence. But we're in Vegas. Can they even do anything from there? Fraud is a federal crime, Marcus. Geographic location doesn't provide immunity. Quick engagement check for everyone watching. Have you ever seen someone's elaborate plan completely backfire? Drop a comment about the most spectacular failure you've witnessed, because this was just getting started. The afternoon brought a cascade of calls I let go to voicemail. Sarah's voice became increasingly desperate with each message. Jake, the police want to talk to me. This is insane. I never actually took anything. My job just fired me. They said I used company equipment for criminal planning. You ruined my career. Marcus is talking about annulment. He says he didn't know I was planning to commit crimes. You destroyed my life. But the most interesting call came from Sarah's sister, Jennifer, who had been posting supportive messages on social media yesterday. Jake, I need to ask you something directly. Did Sarah really send you a photo of her married to another man? Yes. Would you like me to forward it to you? And did she really try to steal money from your bank account? She attempted unauthorized access to my banking, yes. The police have the documentation. Long pause. Jesus, Jake, I'm so sorry. She told us you just kicked her out because you were controlling and jealous. She said she was trying to escape an abusive relationship. Jennifer, I have 3 weeks of her written communications planning this entire scenario, including her plan to clean out my accounts. Would you like me to send you those as well? Oh my God, she's been lying to everyone. By evening, Sarah's social media narrative had completely collapsed. The people who had posted supportive messages yesterday were quietly deleting their comments. Several mutual friends reached out directly asking for the real story. I provided them with factual information and documentation. No editorializing necessary. The final call of the day came from Nevada. Unknown number, but I answered. Is this Jake Morrison? Yes. This is Detective Williams with Las Vegas Metro. We have some questions about Miss Sarah Walsh and potential fraud charges. Would you be available for a phone interview regarding her attempted access to your financial accounts? Absolutely. When would be convenient? Sarah had gone from social media victim to wanted criminal in less than 48 hours. All because she decided to document her crimes in writing. Friday afternoon brought the call I'd been expecting. Jake, it's Marcus. You need to make this stop. His voice had moved beyond panic into pure desperation. I could hear Sarah crying in the background, ugly, hyperventilating sobs. Make what stop, Marcus? The police, her job, everything. She's been arrested. They're saying she could face federal charges for wire fraud and computer crimes. 5 to 20 years and up to $250,000 in fines. This is insane. That does sound like standard federal sentencing guidelines for financial crimes. Look, she never actually took any money. She just tried to log in. That's not the same thing. Marcus, attempted bank fraud is still bank fraud. The law doesn't require successful completion for prosecution. The crying in the background intensified. I could hear Sarah grab the phone. Jake, please. I'm begging you. I made a mistake, okay? I was scared and stupid, and I thought you'd just let me go and we'd both move on. For the first time in our entire relationship, Sarah's voice held genuine emotion. Not manipulation, not strategy, actual fear. Sarah, you planned this for 3 weeks. You documented your intent to commit fraud using your company's communication systems. You attempted to execute that plan exactly as you'd written it. This isn't a mistake, it's a criminal conspiracy. But I love you. I never wanted to hurt you. Marcus means nothing to me. You married him, Sarah. It was supposed to be fake, just to make you jealous. I thought you'd fight for me. The delusion was remarkable. Even facing federal charges, she was rewriting history to make herself the victim. Sarah, you sent me a photo with a marriage certificate and told me I was pathetic. You tried to steal my money. You destroyed your own career. I didn't do any of that. You did. My parents won't even talk to me. They saw the police report and said I'm a disgrace to the family. Please just tell them it was a misunderstanding. The charges aren't mine to drop, Sarah. Wire fraud is a federal crime. The FBI doesn't need my permission to prosecute you. Marcus grabbed the phone back. Look, man, I know she screwed up, but 20 years in federal prison seems extreme. She's not a real criminal. Marcus, she planned to commit theft, documented her plans, and attempted to execute them. That's literally the definition of a real criminal. Last engagement moment for this wild ride. Have you ever watched someone face the complete consequences of their choices? Hit that subscribe button because the ending of this story is something else. What do you want? Marcus asked desperately. Money? An apology? What will make this go away? Nothing makes this go away, Marcus. Sarah created a federal case against herself when she documented her criminal plans in writing. She's talking about suicide, Marcus said quietly. The lawyer says minimum 5 years, even with a plea deal. Then she should probably focus on getting good legal representation instead of trying to manipulate people. I hung up and blocked both numbers permanently. 2 hours later, My attorney called with the final update. Jake, federal prosecutors are moving forward with wire fraud, computer fraud, and conspiracy charges. Maximum exposure is 20 years and $250,000 in fines. Her employer is also filing civil charges for misuse of company resources. What about Marcus? He's cooperating fully. Turns out he documented everything, including Sarah admitting the marriage was revenge theater. Sarah had lost everything: her job, her freedom, her family's respect, and her future. All because she thought I was too pathetic to fight back. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new downtown condo, reading the final legal update over morning coffee. Sarah pled guilty to wire fraud and received 3 years federal prison plus 2 years probation. $75,000 in fines and restitution. She's currently serving time at FCI Dublin. Her parents had to mortgage their house to cover her legal fees. Marcus got the annulment and moved back in with his mother. Last I heard, he was seeing a therapist about trust issues with women. Her former company settled their civil case for an undisclosed amount and implemented new communication monitoring policies. The HR investigation became a case study in corporate security training. The wedding vendors were surprisingly understanding about the cancellations. Most refunded my deposits once they heard the story. The venue coordinator actually said it was the most interesting cancellation reason in 20 years of business. My company gave me a promotion. Apparently, my handling of a complex personal crisis demonstrated excellent analytical thinking under pressure. Word spread about how I documented everything perfectly, and now colleagues come to me for advice on protecting themselves legally. Final question for everyone who made it this far. What's the most important lesson you've learned about trusting people? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story taught you something about consequences, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. I'm dating someone new now. Emma's a forensic accountant, which means she appreciates good documentation and systematic thinking. When I told her this story on our third date, her response was, "You kept evidence of everything?" That's incredibly attractive. I've learned something important. I don't beg for loyalty anymore. I just document everything and let people's choices speak. Some call it cold. I call it efficient.